A Beastly Comedy, Canto 1.8. Like folded flesh the ceiling arched above my drooping head. With flaccid arms my gullet parched, I thought myself a fool, for having with the trooper marched to caverns of the dead. The water whispered like a leaf, I knelt beside a pool, to wash my hands of sweat and soil, to taste the filtered rain. But as my fingers moist approached the liquid soft and cool, the puddle sighed, and being touched, it yelled as if in pain. A female face, a floating form arising from the deep, the plashets bubbled, moaning with the spirits they contain, who having lost the solid shape below the city's seep. The closest mask had eyebrows plucked, another one a beard, the third above the surface had no eyes or was asleep, the fluid bodies in the pits that bottomless appeared. No wonder addicts hath withdrawn, expressing their respect, or shrinking from the sinking souls, the loss of self they feared. With sandy toes and knees I know the features to expect, when staring into darkness or at fishes in a pond. As waters show the airless life my azure dreams reflect, a perch that swims within my reach, its notions far beyond, impressions unimagined by the mammal on the shore, who only can examine its surroundings with a sonde. But buoyant like a bladder filled with air I saw a jaw, and noses coming up for air, the mouths without a face, a blister forming in the depths, assaulted by a claw, as talons with the piercing fangs the parts appeared to chase. And where my image ought to be, the surface was awake, since waves alive with lashes, lips, reflections here replace. What acid has dissolved your limbs? What was the great mistake that led to being liquefied and flowing in the cave, where wispy creatures drink their fill, the thirst for penance slake, and whimper in this wintry womb without the warmth they crave? Have you defied a deity or shown contempt of court, or did you, while escaping shame, disgracefully behave? Detested deeds, repugnant thoughts, by guilty conscience caught. The puddle burbled hissing words, her spittle spraying high, the voice distorted like my form in ripples seen distraught. How haughty can a haggard be, and proud enough to pry what happened when a woman was expected to be chaste, but would not act the passive part, inculpable and shy? Do you intend to count again the bodies I embraced? Inquire if I regret the time expended while confused. Demand that I prostrate myself, pronounce the past a waste. I sought the fruit of freedom, though neglected and abused. The pulp, the shallow sex became too acrid in my throat, debased desire and self-respect, and left me feeling bruised. How many? Well, should I include the horse, the cat, the goat, the women and the men, of course, the aspen I liked best? You seekers sanctimonious descend to hell to gloat, pretending that the prudery prepares you for a quest, as though I suffered, just to show precisions passing by, that boundaries disintegrate when strangers are caressed. I offered my apologies, acknowledged her reply, retreated where the floor was dry, morose, prepared to leave, when gurgles broke the calm and I was spattered with her lie. Abide with me a while, because the night is long to grieve. Affection I had sought before, encountering but lust, the lechers whose compassionate appearances deceive. Because I was susceptible, their words inclined to trust, I languished in the bedrooms and became aloof inside, yet covered up my shriveled self, this arrogance my crust. No passion I regret except the need I used to hide, expecting that coition proves to be expression true, and not a vulgar substitute for love I had denied. The meaning of emotions and desire divine I knew, my skin as smooth as petals, and my bosom heaving pert, when first I met the man who wished to bloom's naive subdue. Unripe enough to still believe that only fools are hurt, I took the drink and listened as he lauded my allure. I laughed, he leered, unkind appeared, declaring me a flirt, yet drowned my will in promises of pleasures more mature. He played me like a harp detuned because he was the first who saw there was a song in me, a canticle impure. The tune was not original, but music we rehearsed. His wild staccato on my hips, legato I had craved. Yet who should be indicted when I hardly was coerced? Thus dwelling in remorse and shame, his bruteness I forgave, but guilt became unbearable until disgrace defied. I started flowing on my course towards the musty cave. Pretending sex could be enough restored the wounded pride, believing I was never wronged, that nonchalance was right, enjoying bodies as a way to shove my dreams aside. As though attachment was inane, affairs my true delight. A self-aware machine perhaps can flesh from thoughts detach, but touches make my mind alive with feelings they ignite. Still acting like from sharper thorns I would not get a scratch, controlling life through myself in thickest thistly dens, where slick bipedal predators could not my body catch. Monstrosities I had escaped, remoteness my defense, but self-respect became deceit, my confidence a lie, as if the members touching me I could not even sense. We clip our wings and then proclaim emotions cannot fly, convinced that freedom is regained by being indiscreet, exchanging fluids even though the stream is running dry. Regarded as a pleasure doll, a slab of throbbing meat, my passion was extinguished since I seemed to have no worth. Yet equally I was resolved to suitors poorly treat. Compassion was a childish dream, infertile was the earth, desire reduced to squelching sounds and battles to be fought, forgetting how a joy divine was kindled at my birth. Attraction was a pastime when I had no true support, ambivalence disturbing me, benevolence and greed, where callous disconnectedness as liberty was taught. That first offender firmly told that sex is just a need. The morning I was fondling him, the face now looking old, the moisture on my pillow as the proof I had been freed. My hand was reaching for the warmth, but felt a figure cold, and picking up his clothes he said, with eyes upon the floor, that abstinence is cowardice, and exploitation bold. The vision blurring, in a flux, without a moral law, I wish to be a liquid that no longer is oppressed, denying when the body's touch I ever wanted more. My moist remains, the flesh dissolved, the maggots have possessed, because the pliant softness was advancing in my bones, and yet my hands, while hands were pressed, by gentle lips caressed. Since no one heard deception or dejection in my moans, the dreams that keep us solid I rejected with no shame. But I was not like victims who in pain paid off their loans, and rising up in prominence procuresses became. Despite the indiscretions cruel, I lower have not oozed, for sex for not for profit, when seduction was a game. The algae on the cavern floor with sprinkles was suffused, the puddle growing silent after spewing out despair, repenting for the time she had unwary suitors used. A sleeve across my head I dried, the saline in my hair, her fluid on my trembling hands, the faint familiar smells. Perhaps no justice brought her down, impartial or unfair, regardless of the moral code we languish in our hells, regret the choices made in haste, the future we betrayed, the dreams abandoned in our cars, bordellos and motels. Again she sputtered words unclear, her waters on me sprayed, excited by remembered deeds that cannot be undone. Yet have the zebras, nightingales, and leeches also strayed. I thought about the soup of cells, the life in seas begun, the frail organic molecules, amino acids formed by lightning or volcano heat, reactions in the sun, ammonia in the atmosphere by methane slowly warmed. The lipids and the proteins in bacteria combined do not inquire what virtue has their unity informed. Did she assume the simple shape, become a placid blind, because without a solid self the sadness might abate? I could not still the storming waves, but trying to be kind, I brushed the pool as if she was a river wild in spate. My fingers were not soft enough, or she could not be calmed. Thus slouching deeper with my friend, I left her in that state, in need of solace, out of touch, and constantly alarmed.